So how would you rank every Star Wars TV show from worst to best? We're going to take a look at this article and let's hope we don't get too frustrated. Oh, this is just getting weird. Oh gosh. Really? It is not. What? Every Star Wars TV show ranked from worst to best, from Andor to The Mandalorian and all Boba Fett books in between. We ranked the Star Wars TV series. Let's see if Kotaku has it what I would say is right. Let's start this slideshow. Number 15. So already they're wrong. They have Book of Boba Fett as the worst Star Wars. I don't know about this. Let's just see what they say. The pitch for the Book of Boba Fett was an incredible big-budget live-action spin-off of The Mandalorian starring Boba Fett, but he was better in Mandalorian than he ever was in Boba Fett. We're not going to watch the trailer. You guys can tell me what you think. I did not like the Book of Boba Fett. I thought it was pretty bad, but I don't think it's the worst. And the fact that it's here at number 15, it makes me wonder where a certain Acolyte show is going to be put by this group.
Sublevel, bunk 23.
You think that I killed her?
Where were you last night?
Let's see what's next. How ridiculous can this get? Number 14, Young Jedi Adventures. I'm going to say I didn't watch this. I didn't care to watch this. It was not geared towards me. My kids weren't interested. And it's things like this that just don't move the needle. So from that standpoint, because it wasn't for me, I don't really have a comment. But just even looking at it here, I could think it was probably not great. Let's see what it said. Unfortunately, Young Jedi Adventures is so far down on the list because of ageism, kind of. The series is most geared towards children of any Star Wars show. It's on Disney Junior, which means it's aimed at really young kids, like 2 to 7. So it's pretty tough to watch if you're a childless 34-year-old woman. Okay, so that's who. Star Wars Resistance. So far, I would agree. I did not like the Resistance. I thought it was just poorly done. I somewhat enjoyed, I enjoyed pretty well Rebels. I enjoyed it a lot. But Star Wars Resistance, the jokes didn't land. It felt, there wasn't much of a story there. So I would agree. That's pretty low on the list. Wow, okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi down at number 12.
I hope you like pain.
I'll never tell you where they are.
It's time to make those tears real.
I did not really enjoy the show. There were moments in the show that I thought were great. I think Stuart Beatty's version would be way better if you've seen that video with Star Wars Theory. But there were so many major problems with the character of Reva and how Vader interacted with that, with the scenes at the Fortress Inquisitorius. Like, oh gosh, there are certain things that happen in a show that just break it beyond repair. Look cheap. It was in the volume only, and it just didn't look great. But alas, Obi-Wan Kenobi focused far too much on young Leia and her relationship with Obi-Wan, bizarrely retreading tired characters and tropes while also trying to create new problems and plot points when there's been a good story to be told sitting right there. Anakin and Obi-Wan's bond during the Clone Wars. But again, Obi-Wan was better than Acolyte. It just was. Star Wars Ahsoka, I would agree. It's not in the top 10. I would agree here. Ahsoka had potential. It picks up where the animated series Rebels left off, which is a major problem. You can't have a live-action series geared towards and hoping to hit a large audience when you're banking and building off of what was an animated series. That's partly why I think the only way you can do something in the Clone Wars era time would be to really retell the Clone Wars from the beginning, if they were to do that in live action, not build off of what has been. And that's partly what happened here with Ahsoka, is that, I mean, there's people that didn't even turn on the Ahsoka show that like Star Wars because they never really watched Rebels and they never really got into Clone Wars because they liked the movies and they watched some of the TV shows. So I think they missed out on a lot there. For me, the Ahsoka pacing was just all off than what we got. The Clone Wars media, man, I think this is actually pretty low. I enjoyed this. I thought some of the stuff in this was really good. Yeah, and it's cool. I like the animation style of it. and it feels different. So, I would have it far above some of the other things that have come out. Mandalorian 9th. What? Okay. Things just got interesting. Okay, I know season 3 was a failure. Like, we'd all agree, season 3 of Mandalorian was a failure.
Join us! Come! Everyone, special guest!
But where would you... I'm sorry, I think Mandalorian is number 2 on my list. If I were to give you my list, it starts with Andor, and then it's Mandalorian. I think when we're talking about quality of shows, even though season 3 was pretty poor in my opinion, I think that the show itself, I want to see what they say. I got to read this blurb because them being 9th, let's take a guess. They're throwing Clone Wars pretty high up. They're throwing Rebels pretty high up. Bad Batch pretty high up. And then that would also leave Ahsoka, or not Ahsoka, sorry, Acolyte above Mandalorian. What? As the first live-action Star Wars show, there was a lot of hype and eyeballs on Mandalorian, and thankfully, it mostly succeeds at taking the big, campy, adventurous spirit of live-action Star Wars films and squeezing it into weekly episodes of a TV show. It also introduced Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, a small child-like example of the alien race known as Yoda's species. Grogu became an overnight pop culture icon and helped make The Mandalorian even bigger. The show is pure Star Wars fan service. I don't know about that. But it's big budgeted and fun fan service delivered in a weekly package with guest stars like Jack Black. Who wrote this? I'm sorry. Tales of the Empire. I didn't even remember this one. Better than Mandalorian? No, I'm sorry. I get the anthology idea, and I think, as we talked about on my recent live stream, the possibility of doing an anthology type idea in live action is intriguing, but not above Mandalorian. Tales of the Jedi anthology is very good. You'll see why on the next slide. So it makes sense that Disney would try and cash cow some with the Tales of the Empire. Though it looks just as good as benevolent predecessor Empire, is less consistent with really good episodes. The first and third episodes in each arc, and some are bad ones. I'm just going to say this. I don't really think the animated... I know the animated stuff may have been better, but I think the good live action is still better than the best animated. I don't know. What do you think they're going to have one? I don't think it'll be Andor. I think Andor's going to be 7 or 6. I think that's where they're going to put it. Tales of the Jedi. Tales of the Jedi was interesting, but oh man, where's Acolyte on this list? Where is it? Where's Visions? Okay, but again, hit or miss, right? And it just very one-off. Some of the styles were appealing, some weren't. I think it was an interesting idea. But man, oh, this is just getting weird. Oh gosh, really? It is not. No. No way. It clearly is not. How in the world can you think that the worst performing show, the show that has just completely splintered the fandom and been completely deleted from memory? I mean, they haven't deleted the episodes, but they got rid of the merchandising and... Okay, let's read this. Oh, man. Let's see what they have to say. Oh, the Acolyte. You were too pure for this world. How dare you tell a brand new Star Wars story during a never-before-seen in live-action eras, several actors of color that lambast the small-mindedness of the Jedi Order and has enemies to lovers plot point. Are you serious? Notoriously close-minded sects of the Star Wars community hated the Acolyte even before it aired. It's not good. Sure, there were some people that saw the trailer and were out. Fine. But this feels like you're attempting to justify something. This should be 15. This was worse than Boba Fett. By far. The plot holes, the acting, the horrible cheapness that it looked like. Right? Like... The motivations of characters that made no sense at all. The incessant need to tell a story from a perspective, trying to use Plagueis like a prop, making it seem like Yoda's complacent in a cover-up. No, not at all. And it's not close-minded to say that. It's actually objectively bad. Though it tripped on its own 2 feet midway through the first and now seemingly only season, the Acolyte gave us the best live-action lightsaber fight duel since Duel of the Fates. Okay, so it gave us a good fight scene. And I would agree, some of the fight scenes were compelling, but they were less so compelling because of the characters in them. A deliciously deviant villain in Chimere. No, he was cracking jokes and not letting anything develop. A pointed critique of the pointless rigidity of the Jedi Order. No, it wasn't a pointed critique. It had no good points. No, it ignored lore, it ignored canon, it ignored everything to try and force something. And new characters who immediately endeared themselves to us and then died. Forgot about that part. It's an inspiring show that's fresher than drinking bantha milk out of the damn bucket, with great performances from Jacinto, Lee Zhang, and Mandela Stenberg. No, that you cannot say. I'm sorry. You cannot say the acting of Amandla Stenberg was a great performance. I'll give you Jacinto, and I'll give you Lee Zhang. She did nothing. Carrie Ann Moss did nothing in the show. Daphne Keane was barely in it. This is ridiculous. Yep, let's see what 4 is. Nothing makes sense. Bad Batch. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're leaning into Bad Batch, Rebels, Clone Wars, and then Andor, right, is what's left. Bad Batch, Rebels, Clone Wars. Nope. Wrong. And then Clone Wars. I think Clone Wars has actually created a lot of the problems we have in Star Wars today. I think some of the storylines and the characters that have been made, the fact that Ahsoka should have died in Clone Wars against Vader, I think would have been a better story arc. I think that the fact that Dave Filoni is forcing his characters and continuing to tell a story, and if you're building an entire live action series and movies going forward based on characters from animated shows, I don't think it's going to work very well. People aren't going to go back and watch Rebels to get and understand Ahsoka. People aren't going to go back and watch Clone Wars to get and understand some of the things that happened back then. It's just, they're not going to. If they haven't watched it now, they're not going to. Clone Wars is good, but it's not there. So, man, I knew when I saw some of the reactions of people on Twitter and whatnot that this was going to be interesting. But yeah, so Andor 2nd and Acolyte 5th. Makes no sense. I don't know. What do you think? Give me your order down below. What would you put where if you were ranking all of these in one fell swoop? And I'd even say, hey, if you just want to give me your live action versus animated as well, you can. But either way, thanks for watching. Remember,